Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Suits and Laterals. I am Chris Green and I am joined by Jeff Rich as usual. Jeffrey, how are you doing this week?
Hey, Chris, it's good to be here talking about the NFL again. I'm doing well.
Great. Glad to have you on with me as usual. And so it's been an interesting week in the NFL this week. We actually got to enjoy our Sunday for once. Johnny Manziel back at the helm actually leads the Browns to a win over the sorry 49ers. I know it's the 49ers, but a win's a win, and we haven't seen too many of them this year.
Yeah, that's a bad football team that the Browns played in San Francisco, but, anytime you can go out there and win a football game, I mean, that's what you set out to do. All this talk about tanking for draft pick, only the fans buy into that. The players are out there playing, a lot of them playing for their jobs, maybe not the high-profile guys, but, hey, you know what? The team banded together. They gave Manziel a win. Great job by the offensive line setting up the running game, and Isaiah Crowell got the stats. I think he had 145 yards on the ground, by far his season high.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it interesting. All this talk before they placed Colin Kaepernick on the injured reserve with replacing him with Blaine Gabbert. Really? I mean, what I saw from Blaine Gabbert this week, that guy doesn't belong in the NFL, let alone starting.
Yeah, well, they say he's a playbook warrior. He was found to have studied his playbook almost four times as much as Colin Kaepernick, and that's part of why he has a starting job. But, I mean, San Francisco, how the mighty have fallen. I mean, even last year wasn't too bad. Well, they finished like 7-9. Knowing Harbaugh was on his way out at the end, they couldn't have predicted the awful offseason, and it's spelled out on the field. And a loss in Cleveland, 24-10 loss in Cleveland this late in the season, given everything that's gone on with the Browns this season, it's a real testament to just how bad things are with the San Francisco 49ers right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I still remember earlier this year people out here telling me, the 49ers are going to be great this year and get back into the playoffs. I'm like, I don't know what team you're looking at, but I sure as heck don't see it. And obviously I'm the one looking good on that comment.
Well, let me ask you this, Chris. Is there a team that going into the season you thought would be a pretty good football team that just hasn't shown it?
Going into the season, I really thought the Dolphins would do. I mean, I wasn't sure that they'd be playoff. I thought they'd at least be 500, and everything that's gone on. They fired their coach, they fired the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. They're a below 500 team, and I mean they're just treading water at this point. So I expected a lot more from them. They added Ndamukong Suh to that defense, and I thought he would make an impact, and he really hasn't done anything. And they really changed up a lot, and I expected more from that team, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a little disappointed in Buffalo coming from that same division myself. I thought
Sure.
that, Rex Ryan would bring some of the magic with him. I mean, that was a team that was on the verge of the playoffs a year ago, and, they're still on the outside looking in, mathematically eligible and all of that, but that's a disappointing football team. But I'm a really good, the reason I asked you the question is because I'm looking at the standings right now. I see the St. Louis Rams at 5-8. They were really supposed to compete with Arizona and Seattle in that division, and they just haven't been able to get it done. That they've lost games that they had in their grasp, like the Baltimore game when we had the Case Keenum concussion controversy. There's just been all kind. They went into Arizona and stole a game. Arizona's 11-2. One of those losses is a home loss to the Rams in Week 5. So, I mean, this is a team that's capable. They seem to have all the weapons. They can't quite get it all together on offense, but they might not have to with the addition of the services of Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I mean, Gurley has definitely made a huge impact this year. I mean, Nick Foles, they brought him in to replace Sam Bradford, who went to Philadelphia, and he's really been a disappointment for them. He put up some big numbers with Philadelphia, and I guess he's just proving to be a system quarterback, or is it just Jeff Fisher is that horrible to quarterbacks?
Hey, who's the best team over there in that NFC East? The Eagles have the Cardinals this Sunday, and that doesn't look too good for Philadelphia, but it doesn't look too good seems to be a recurring theme throughout the NFC East. I keep waiting for the Giants to pull away. I've mentioned it on this show and some other things that I do, and it's just not happening. I mean, you have a three-way tie at the top of the NFC East, And that stupid expression, if the playoffs started today, it'd be the Redskins that would get the NFC East title and the home game in the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's been a bigger disappointment as far as the divisions go. I mean, everybody expected the Cowboys to do bigger things. The Eagles, had high expectations with bringing in Sam Bradford at quarterback and DeMarco Murray at running back, and they've all faltered. I mean, I would say the Redskins have actually been the surprise of the division, to be honest. I mean, nobody was expecting them to do much. I mean, we talked about it earlier this season. We were all surprised Jay Gruden even had a job, and especially after he went out and named Kirk Cousins quarterback. They've actually been a fairly decent team. I mean, they're a game under 500, but like you said, at this point, they'd be in the playoffs right now.
In the rest of the NFC, everything looks pretty chalkish. You have Green Bay at the top of the North. I think Carolina was expected to contend for the title in the NFC South. Nobody expected them to be 13-0. They're a great story, and they seem to be gaining momentum as the season goes on. Arizona and Seattle, you figure one of those two teams would be in the top of the NFC. In the AFC, it's a lot of chalk, too. Denver, Indianapolis, New England. But, stomp the brakes a little bit with the AFC North there. 2-game lead, 3 games left in the season. You figure this is okay for Cincinnati, even if they're going forward with A.J. McCarron or if they're going to rush Andy Dalton back from a mysterious injury. What do you see playing out in the AFC North? I mean, Pittsburgh's one of those teams that doesn't have to be 14-2 to be to make noise in the playoffs. And Cincinnati has never made noise in the playoffs, and they sit at 10-3 with some dire straits there, on their offense, despite having all those weapons.
Well, exactly. I mean, last week I told you I thought Pittsburgh, of all the teams that was kind of on the outside looking in or on the fringe of the wild card, I thought they were the most dangerous team in the AFC, and I still believe that. Roethlisberger's back and healthy. That he's getting all of his weapons back. If their defense holds up, they can make some noise in that division. I mean, Cincinnati right now with Dalton going down, the division is not even out of the question at this point for the Steelers. And there's always going to be those questions about Dalton anyways, of whether he can actually come through in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with them. I mean, New England they were really doing well early on in the year, and then they struggled 2 out of the last 3 weeks. So,
what'd you think? Let's stop on New England for a second. There, did you think that Tom Brady showed that he's going to be able to overcome and adjust to having the taxi squad that he's got out there? Because that Houston Texans team was a pretty hot football team going into Sunday Night Football a week ago, and the Patriots just really had their way with them, despite the final score. 27-6 is a blowout by my standards.
Sure. I mean, it helped that he had Gronkowski back, too. I mean, that's his safety net right there. And once he gets Edelman back as well, that's going to be even bigger for him. So if he has those two, Patriots can definitely go far.
Let's see. So Denver showed that they're human, that Brock Osweiler maybe isn't quite everything that he looked like he was going to be in the first couple of weeks that he played. I mean, this isn't a regression or anything on the part of Osweiler. It's just Jack Del Rio's got a pretty good defense there with the Oakland Raiders, and they just managed to shut everything down, when they went up against the Broncos last week.
Well, and we got to remember, too, though Osweiler's been in the league for a while now, this is still only his 3rd start. So, I mean, he's still a rookie quarterback when it comes to starting in the NFL. I mean, Peyton Manning, up until those 3 starts, had played pretty much every game before that. So he's still learning the intricacies of being a quarterback in the NFL. You can't actually – that's not something you can learn just stand there watching. You actually have to get out there and face the speed and everything else. He needs those reps. He's going to take his lumps as a young quarterback. Not too many quarterbacks come into the league and are just spectacular right off the bat. So he's going to have his ups and downs. I just think it begs the question, if Manning can actually get healthy come playoff time, do you stick with Osweiler if he's still kind of, they're winning some games, but he's not really hurting them and he's not really helping them? Or do you go back to Manning, who really has had a bad year, to be completely honest?
Yeah, he has. It's been bad for Manning. It's going to be bad for your eye sockets on Thursday Night Football. We're going to do another one of those NFL Color Rush games with Tampa Bay taking on the Rams. Rams are going to wear some sort of smeared mustard. The Bucks, I believe, are going to wear their new red, not pewter, but the red versus the creamsicle, and it's going to look awful. And
I thought the Steelers had the patent on those smeared mustard look.
oh, it's awful. It's just awful all the way around. Hey, two teams, Tampa Bay with an outside chance at the playoffs there, going on the road to St. Louis, a team that I feel should be better than their 5-8 record. Am I crazy to think that the Bucks have all the momentum going into this one and they should actually win a road game on a Thursday night?
No, not at all. I mean, they are really one of the up and coming league teams in the league. To say, it's kind of funny to say that. I mean, they've been bad for so long, but Jameis Winston's he's really made some good progression throughout the year. Early on, he struggled, but lately he's really come through, and he's kind of put that team on his shoulders, and they're getting some good running from Doug Martin as well. So I definitely think they should win out this weekend.
Well, in addition to some fantastic December 19th bowl action, Saturday night yields an NFL football game for the first time this season. The Jets.
I love Saturday night NFL, actually. I wish they did it all year long.
Hey, the Jets
I know college football fans don't agree with that.
I wouldn't care. I'd actually appreciate it, but you got the Jets going in, a lot of playoff prospects, and I think that it's time that we finally admit that the Dallas Cowboys have nothing vested in January and February of 2016, and they're going to have to pick up the pieces when they go to training camp, because 4-9 is 4-9. I don't care how bad the NFC East is. It doesn't shape up for the Dallas Cowboys. So they are in a role to play spoiler on national TV. Do you like the Cowboys' chances of trying to knock the Jets down a peg while everybody chases them in the AFC wildcard race?
Not at all. I think the Jets are a very steady and I would even say a little bit strong team. They've got a very good defense, and they've got a very steady offense that's really come through when they needed them to this year. The Jets are one of the surprises of the NFL right now, I'd say. I mean, they're not the 13-0 Panthers, but they've definitely had a much better year than I expected, and I think than most people really expected them to do. So I just don't see them having any trouble putting away the Cowboys this weekend.
Those 13-0 Panthers go to New York to play the Giants. Sort of a must-win for the Giants. You're getting to the point where how much does Carolina need to do? I think that they pick up this one more win, and that they guarantee that they space themselves. That there's space between themselves and Arizona in the home field advantage chase in the NFC. But I actually like the Giants to hang a 1 on the Panthers' 13-0 season.
Really, I'm a little bit surprised by that. I mean, the Giants have been very inconsistent this year, but like we've talked about before, this is their time. So usually when Tom Coughlin's on the hot seat, December is their month. So if they're going to win out and try to get into the playoffs, they have to win out is what it amounts to. So they're going to have to beat Carolina, but the way Carolina's played this year, I just don't see it.
Okay, how about this AFC South pseudo-championship game between the Texans and the Colts in Indianapolis? You got to figure that the luck's run out, or everything that Indianapolis was clinging to, has kind of gone by the wayside. I'd say, despite their loss to the Patriots, the Texans are playing good football. The Brian Hoyer situation, I don't know how much they fall back going with the backup there, but I like the Texans going on the road, and I like them ultimately to win the AFC South.
Yeah, I definitely think the Texans are going to come out and put it to the Colts. I mean, I couldn't believe when I saw that Jacksonville put up 51 points against the Colts last week. I really think, Andrew Luck's not going to play. And, I mean, Matt Hasselbeck can only go so far at 41 years old. I think they're just playing out the string at this point, and Chuck Pagano will be looking for a new job come January 4th.
Hey, we saw the Raiders take it to the Broncos a week ago. Packers, same kind of team. Last time they went to an AFC West road opponent, it was Denver, and they really got humbled by what they weren't at the time. They dropped 4 or 5 there. But they are playing an Oakland Raiders team that's playing some inspired football at 6-7 this season.
Absolutely. I mean, the Raiders are on the outskirts of the playoff hunt, but it's still possible, not likely. But they're playing for pride right now. So they're an up and coming team. Jack Del Rio's really got them firing on all cylinders right now. So, I mean, they're really probably one or two players on the defensive side of the ball from really making some noise here in the coming years. But I still like the Packers coming this week. I think they kind of figured some stuff out in this past week with Mike McCarthy taking over the play calling role, and I like the Packers in this game.
Broncos playing a road game of their own. They're going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh playing, playing pretty well lately at 8-5. They were in a big hole early against the Bengals, who currently sit at 10-3. But there's an outside chance to the division. Denver's a very good football team coming in. How do the Steelers slow them down? Do they take a page out of the Jack Del Rio blueprint, or do they take on this offense with their own weapons?
Well, I think it's just more of a question. You got great offense against great defense here. So can the Broncos stop the Steelers' offense? The Broncos' offense right now is average, I would say, maybe slightly above average. So I think the Steelers smell blood in the water after the Bengals losing Dalton. So I think they're going to win this game, and they're going to be putting the pressure on the Bengals for the division.
A.J. McCarron and the suddenly struggling Cincinnati Bengals go to Santa Clara, take on the 49ers, who we saw were not a very good football team a week ago. They sit at 4-9, playing at home against a Cincinnati team that might be trying to figure some things out.
I think the Bengals could start you and me at quarterback right now and coast in this game.
Hey, I don't know if that's a testament to the skills you saw in Northeast Ohio, high school football back in the late '90s, but I'm guessing by your praise that you were not. As I mentioned earlier, Cardinals going to Philadelphia to take on the 6-7 Eagles. Cardinals cruising at 11-2, had a kind of a long week after playing Thursday night football, a 23-20 win over the Minnesota Vikings in Glendale, Arizona. Any struggles, any problems you see them potentially running into with the Eagles at this point in the season?
No, because Cardinals are playing for home field right now, and they pretty much have to win. At this point, they have to win out and hope that Carolina loses a couple of games. So I like them this week. Their defense has been good. Carson Palmer's been good all year. They've got the running game still held up. So I don't think they're going to have any problem with the Eagles.
Hey, Chris, I know it was almost a week ago, but, I got bits and pieces, glimpses of that Cardinals-Vikings game. I was running around last Thursday evening. But what I noticed was how many plays were stopped for review, whether it was just so egregiously wrong on the field or if it's just the nature of plays being so close and us having this technology at our fingertips. It seems like they should get it right every time. There was some news that broke this week that Dean Blandino is making some changes. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the competition committee has recommended to the commission, and the commissioner has actually already approved it, that they're going to do a limited adjustment for the 2015 playoffs. So this change permits the referees on the field to actually speak with Dean Blandino in New York during these games in case there's a controversial issue that isn't governed by instant replay. So, and they've been run into some plays like this already this year and in years past. So I think this is a positive situation. They're just trying to get the plays right, which is at the end of the day is the most important part of it. I mean, some people may not like it for delays in the game or whatever, but if your team loses because of a technicality and you can't review it, then you're going to be happy about this.
We should probably be a little more clear about this, because when we say it, and when I hear Rich Eisen or whoever else in the media say, it comes down on Dean Blandino, it's not just him sitting like the emperor's chair, just swiveling around watching, 8 to 10 games at a time. I mean, he's got a team that, says, hey, that over there looks off. Let's see, do you want to stop it? And he might sign off on it, given his role as, basically the head of officiating. I don't know. I worry that it's going to slow the game down. I mean, the replay itself slows the game down plenty to where we're going from 2-hour 55-minute games to 3-hour and 16-minute games just with the stoppages. It gets difficult, but I'm going to sit there and watch it. I don't know how much the casual fan is going to tolerate it. After a while.
Well, I mean, here's something too you got to look at with it. I mean, this isn't. I guess I should clarify it a little bit more. There is some restrictions on this, so it's not going to include the ability to call or change a foul or otherwise become involved in on-field judgment calls that are not subject to the current instant replay. This is just more clarification's sake, just so they don't really screw something up that really leaves the egg on the face of the league.
Yeah, you mean like interpreting what a catch is?
Yes, exactly.
Well, that there's and there are things that are all about the interpretation of the rule. I mean, yeah, do you buzz down at the end of that Detroit Seattle game when the player bats the ball out of the out of the back of the end zone? Is that one of those fouls that falls into that category? Because I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's good. That's getting it right.
Exactly.
I'd almost be in favor of something that favored end of game, the fourth quarter and overtime decisions only. But that's a slippery slope because what happens if something terrible happens in the second quarter and there's like a 14-point swing and it changes the entire game. So you want to try to limit it, but at the same time you want to if you're going to do it, you want to let it serve its purpose.
Yeah, I mean it's just more of another way to cover themselves. So just there's been so much belly aching about the officiating this year. I think they're, like I said, they're just trying to protect themselves in case something comes up. But I really don't know that it's even going to come into play. But they're at least giving the option if necessary.
Yeah, you mentioned the NFL's protecting themselves. They apparently aren't all about protecting their players, but they're going to at least feign like they are. Looks like they're going to offer disciplinary action if you try to curtail the concussion protocol. What say you on this?
I think this is important. I mean, this is something we talked about a couple weeks ago, and this is directly because of the Case Keenum incident. I mean, we talked about this. There really shouldn't have been any reason that he went right back into that game. It was pretty obvious. So they're trying to put some penalties in place. I guess, I don't know if it's just to make sure people are paying attention or just making sure that they're not putting players at risk unnecessarily. I think it's a good thing. Will it change anything? I hope so, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it should be working. It should have worked without all the extra protocols in place. And it's just, it's getting the objective opinion in there rather than somebody that's employed by the team or even employed by the league, because you want the best, you want the best product possible out there. You also want these players to have a quality of life after the game. Otherwise, you risk extinction with the game itself.
Yeah, exactly. And just something we should clarify, too. This also applies to all injuries, not just concussions.
Okay, so if we see a guy out there with limping on one leg, we got to pull him out of the game. I mean, is there a point where the league has to overstep the trainer? Or I mean, it's going to be interesting watching this get enforced and watching the fight over it, because if I don't know what the answer is other than just like the malpractice on the part of the medical staff, because those guys are medical doctors. They're not just like physical therapists, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. I think some of this too. I mean, it's been in discussions before, about the players getting shot up with Toradol and going back into the games. I think this is something to help prevent those kind of things from happening as well, along with the concussions. I think the concussions are the primary issue that they're trying to address here, but they're trying to eliminate those things as well. So you don't have guys going back out there risking permanent injury, I guess. I don't know. I mean, in all honesty, players are going to still play. They're going to try to hide it because they don't want other players to see them as weak. So I don't know how effective this is going to be, but it's something, I guess.
Hey, I want to revisit a topic that you and Damien talked about when I was out of town for one reason or another. And that's the streaming, because I was reading an article on the Sports Business Journal that kind of referred to the online streaming outlets, the video without
Yahoo
cable,
had the game earlier this year in Europe. Yep.
Yahoo had the game earlier this year. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. I mean, those could all be players. Apple. Apple seems like it's it's almost automatic at this point. It's just how exclusionary does the NFL want to be? I'd assume that they, based on their relationship with DirecTV and Sunday Ticket and the exclusive rights there. Ditto for their Verizon deal. that if there's something that's exclusive to Apple device users, then so be it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, let's be honest. This is all about the NFL making more money. That's what this is all about. But it could be good for the fans because, I mean, if it gives them more opportunities to see these games or see teams they wouldn't normally get the opportunity to, that's a good thing for fans. As long as these companies don't start charging outrageous rates for it. That was one thing I brought up to Damien before. Is I'm worried about, Yahoo didn't charge this time, but what's to say they don't start a subscription service with this? So whether you're paying for them or you're paying for DirecTV games, I mean, you're still paying for it. I think you get more choices, I guess.
It would be great if Yahoo would just give fans of team, displaced fans like yourself and I, the option to watch one team. What is it? It's like $200 for the service of having every game on DirecTV, but you have to have DirecTV. Yeah, Yahoo. Give me the Browns games every week for 16 of the 17 weeks throughout the season. I'll pay $160 for it. Don't give me $10 a game option. Give me a full season option. Only slightly cheaper, but save me the disparity of getting DirecTV and having to carry all these other channels when all I really want to do is watch 3 hours of football 16 weeks out of the season.
Well, I mean, NFL.com does actually have the NFL Rewind that you can do. But the thing about it that kind of stinks is you have to wait till all the game's over that day before you actually get an opportunity to watch your game. So if you don't want to watch games at midnight or after 10 p.m. on the West Coast, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you can do that, but it kind of sucks at that point.
I've tinkered with getting that, and I just read something interesting the other day that you can't watch while any other game is going on.
Correct.
So if you want to watch during, if you work on Sunday or whatever, and you want to watch the Browns during Monday Night Football, you are restricted, and that's really kind of a showstopper for me because if I want to watch when I want to watch. I mean, if it's on demand, it's got to be when I demand it, not when it's just available to be demanded.
Yeah, really, what it is. I mean, it's a more budgeted option for NFL fans to be able to watch their teams. But like you said, you have to deal with those restrictions. So it just comes down to how do you want to deal with it?
Yeah, right. So.
But I'll tell you what I like to deal with. I like to deal with our Suits and Lateral show, and I like to deal with you, Jeff. We have a great show every week, and we want to get more people subscribed to us. So come out and check us out in the Four Lights FM network, and that's fourlightsfm.com, I believe.
Yeah, and they can get right to us at suitsandlaterals.com. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and basically anything with an RSS feed. You can get, and actually we're going to start publishing this show at morethanafan.net, which I happen to kind of sort of be in charge of. So plenty of places to find us. We appreciate you listening, and we hope you make it easier on yourself by hitting those subscribe buttons.
Absolutely. So I'm going to be hitting the road here in a few days, Jeff, so I will be joining you from our hometown of Cleveland next week. So I look forward to freezing my butt off and telling you some interesting stories possibly and feel the local Browns fan reaction other than from the West Coast. So should be interesting to hear that, and we'll see what other interesting things happen this week. So please come back and join us next week. And for Jeff Rich, I'm Chris Green. Have a good week.